my name is Kathy McMains, and I did my service learning project on the iPad Exploration Program at Brookdale, Westlake Hills Continuing Care Retirement Community. Computer and electronic technologies have changed drastically in the last 50 years. The first fully operational electronic computer was 3 feet deep, 8 feet tall, and 100 feet long. Now we carry computers in our pockets. Individuals over the age of 65 have seen computers change from punch cards to floppy disks to microchips. How can the elderly of today keep up with the rapid pace of technological advancement? This is why I chose the Service Learning Project at Brookdale, Westlake Hills to serve and learn in the iPad Exploration Program. Brookdale Senior Living is a nationally provider of long-term residential care and short-term rehabilitation options for the elderly in the United States. Their mission statement is enriching the lives of those we serve with compassion, respect, excellence, and integrity. There are 55,000 residents in 1,100 different Brookdale communities across 47 states. Brookdale Westlake Hills is a continuing care retirement community in Austin, Texas. It's called that because it contains care. Independent living contains 161 residents. 111 residents are women, 69%. And 50 men are residents, which represent 31% of the independent living residents. Only 4 of those residents, 2.5%, identified themselves as non-white. The socioeconomic class of the independent living is upper middle class and well-educated. The iPad program was scheduled for 2 times a week in the independent living, and there were 4 women and 3 men in the iPad program. In the assisted living, there are currently 29 residents, 21 women, 72%, and 8 men, 28%. 2 of those residents, which would be 7%, identified as non-white. They are also well-educated and upper middle class. They also had 4 women and 3 men in the assisted living iPad Exploration Program. In the skilled nursing, they contains both short-term rehab and long-term care. The short-term rehab census fluctuates greatly from about 30 to 50 residents, with an average about 37 residents who are on short-term rehab at one time. There is not any official iPad Exploration Program for this level of care, but I did find that approximately 1/3 of the short-term residents use a computer on a daily basis. I took this as computers, personal computers, tablets, smartphones, and handheld gaming devices. Lastly, in the skilled nursing, the long-term care residents, this number fluctuates between 35 to 45 residents, with an average of about 40 residents. None of the residents in the long-term care own their own iPads. There are 2 iPads that are available for loan in the long-term care. 2 of the residents own their own personal computers. One uses their personal computer for movies and games exclusively. And then 1 resident also uses their personal computer for sending and receiving email, but there is no interest at all for an iPad program in the long-term skilled nursing care. I was thoroughly impressed with the extensive list of resources that Brookdale provides for its employees for assisting with the residents. Along with the iPad Exploration Program, there are also resources for using and also for training the residents to use Apple TVs and cameras and a plethora of other applications for use on their own devices or the devices that are available for loan. There are even resources for forming a tech committee in your community. So there's just a brief list of the types of resources that Brookdale provides. So what are the determining factors of participation in a technology program for the elderly? Here is what I found throughout the 14 plus hours of service learning. The elderly residents were more likely to use computer technology if they owned their own personal computer, iPad, or smartphone than, of course, if they did not own their own. The younger residents were more likely to use technology than the oldest old residents. Those with fewer care needs also tended to have more time and interest in computer use than those with higher care needs. I found computer technology being used most often for videos, games, and reading, and less often for sending and receiving emails, taking pictures, and or surfing the internet. Often because these activities require fewer steps and were less complex. Simple instructions could be followed by a larger group of people than the complex operations requiring many steps. Most of the elderly were more interested in the program if they had support, someone there along with them, than if they were completely on their own. Most of the time. Those individuals in the short-term rehab who were still employed were much more likely to use a computer than an individual who was retired. And lastly, those with large social networks more likely to use a computer to stay connected than for those individuals with a much smaller social network. How are the gerontological theories of aging that we have studied this semester relevant to the aging experiences that I have studied in my service learning project? The continuity theory of aging states that individuals continue to participate in activities and social relationships that they have had in the past, with similar behaviors and patterns and personality traits that they have had throughout their lives. I found evidence for this theory in every level of care, with the highest evidence in the short-term rehab and in the independent living community. Those individuals who were not interested in computer technology in their younger years were generally not interested in their elder years. Those who had formerly used technology in their past work, experiences, or activities were more likely to attempt to continue to do so. The disengagement theory of aging states that it is natural and unavoidable for the elderly to withdraw from society as they age and as they reach an acceptance of death. I found the greatest evidence for this theory in the long-term care skilled nursing. I believe this was due to many factors, but including their high care level needs, the decreased physical abilities, decreased cognition, chronic conditions, often involving chronic pain, depression, and also terminal diagnoses. The activities theory of aging states that individuals have a better aging experience if they stay as physically and socially active as possible. I found this to be the most prevalent theory throughout all 4 levels of care, with the highest levels in the assisted living and in the independent living. Computer technology was often used to increase activity levels through the use of computers to access and interact with games, music, videos, computer solitaire, crossword puzzles, applications for drawing and painting, computer social networking, photo sharing, and for emails. Over the course of my service learning opportunity, I observed a wide range of responses from the residents that were represented with the iPad Exploration Program. Some residents were determined to learn the new iPad technology, and others refused. The first observation that I made was there was no intuitive knowledge on how to use an iPad, even if the resident had previous computer knowledge. At some point in the process, all of the residents that chose to participate learned something new: how to turn on the device, what is the home screen or what is an app, what's the difference between a flick, a tap, or a pinch, and some residents had to learn from scratch how to turn on the device itself. Those individuals in the independent living who were most interested in learning how to use the new iPad technology were those who had formerly relied on technology in other ways and used some form of technology frequently in their work or their home environment. My observations in the assisted living most closely followed this activities theory of aging. The residents in the assisted living tended to be older, have higher level of care needs. These residents were more interested in the new iPad technology for how it could keep them actively engaged. For example, they used the iPad for playing games, puzzles, word games. In contrast, the individuals in the independent living use the technology for more practical or more sophisticated tasks involving more extensive understanding of the technology and the ability to follow multiple steps. The independent living residents were more interested in knowing how to send emails with pictures, take videos, and search the internet for information on products to purchase. Those individuals who were at the community for only a short rehab stay tended to bring their own technology with them and have developed their own activities, their own engagement, their own social support system. In direct contrast, those individuals with much higher care needs who were living at the community long term were either not interested in learning about new technologies, or they were not physically, emotionally, or mentally capable enough to take on the challenge involved in such a task. Speaking of challenge, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi states that the best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. You may have heard of this concept of flow. Flow is a word used to describe an ideal mental state, often associated with a particular activity, in this case, the iPad Exploration Program. You may have heard of flow being described as being in the zone or in tune. Flow is achieved when a person is completely immersed in an activity based on the optimal balance of the skill level and challenge to the participant that creates both an interest and an ability to succeed. Flow is essential to understanding when designing and or facilitating programs for any age, but especially important in designing engaging programs for the elderly, as they have a much wider scope of knowledge and past experiences. They also have many acute and chronic conditions in various combinations. This can cause some activities to prove much more challenging than they have in the past. This diagram on the right bottom corner represents the concept of flow and the results of either an activity that provides a high challenge with a very low skill level, or an activity in which an individual has a high level of skill and not much challenge. Combining my research with my personal experience as a certified recreational therapist and a program director, also with my service learning project, I conclude that the degree to which an elderly individual will be engaged in computer technology is based primarily on a combination of their current cognitive abilities and their past experiences with computers. In order to produce the most engaging and flow-like experience, activities should be tailored to suit the interests, the past experiences, the current function level that best balances both the challenge and a skill. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope that this presentation